Good morning, it's Kim on an overcast day here in upstate New York, Zone 4B. This is our weekly walk around the garden and see if anything has changed. All right, let's get started. So, I guess probably not a whole lot. Well, I think there have been a lot of changes, but most of which I made. We'll just walk through and see. All right, so still have some space here, which I don't like spaces because it's a chance for weeds to grow. I do have it mulched heavy, so far we're doing well. This week I think the biggest change is I took out a lot of spring foliage. It had really started to flop, like the daffodil foliage, and it's made a lot look empty. This is not from that though. This empty spot is where I've tried two different hydrangeas. Wee White has been there for 2 years and it kept getting burned out. Even in my zone 4B, Wee White doesn't seem to tolerate full sun. Then I went with the hydrangea. Not sure. I bought a couple new ones this year. I'll try to put the name up for you. One was the Top. It's a new one. And they're the pink or purple ones. It kept getting burned out as well. So I moved it. I'll show you. So I have purchased a tiny wine Ninebark because this spot needs a dark foliage. The front yard needs some dark foliage. And I have a hardy hibiscus evening rose, but it's still so tiny. And I've kind of gotten away from the hardy hibiscus in my front bed just for the fact that it takes them so long to get started. That you have a bare spot. And they get large, which I love large. It takes them so long, though, that you have an empty looking spot for quite some time. So, tiny wine Ninebark and the blue kazoo Spirea. I'd kind of like to put probably the tiny wine up there next to the Walkway and the blue kazoo here. I'm also thinking maybe blue kazoo and a Echinacea. Some bright color pop there. The Stand By Me clematis is still blooming. Got lots of blooms on it. I did have to prop it. I do need an obelisk for that. We have the Munstead lavender, which is not rated for zone 4B, but I have 3 that have been here for years. I have 1, 2, and then on the other side of this daylily, guess I never really show this side, right where the walkway begins, I have that one. I have a liatris coming up and some summer or green eyes Rudbeckia coming up there. That Rudbeckia came back from last year, which doesn't normally happen in our zone either. I still have a few tulip foliage there, which probably wouldn't be noticeable if I didn't have the huge hole. I have some dahlias that are really coming up now. But again, they're kind of a late bloomer. My cantaloupe. It's a new one for me anyway, from Proven Winners, Supreme Cantaloupe. Echinacea. Has a tiny bloom on it. This is their first year. Still have the Nepeta or Nepeta. It's going to be trimmed back soon, but the bees are still on it. There's still a few tiny flowers. There's a better example of the Stand By Me clematis. I love those blooms. They're like little fairy skirts to me. Tons of buds on the daylilies. I see, this is more my idea for fullness. And to be honest, I did have those daylilies all the way down, but I kind of want to mix it up a little bit. I did put 3 more daylilies down there, but they are younger, and I'm not sure they get quite as full as the Stelladoros do. The back bed, the clematis are still growing, starting to bloom down at that end. We have our little fairy who's getting wound around by the clematis. There's a little bud right in front of her that I think will be really cute if it ends up opening up in front of her. It might just move on past her. Still have some roses budding, but they're definitely going over. Something's still eating the foliage pretty good. This is a Queen of Sweden. There's the Rudbeckia green eyes. Another one that came back from last year. So let's walk down the side of the walkway. I have liatris right there. Love the looks of the foliage there. So I cut down some daffodils there. But this is where, to me, it looks bad. So I've got to figure out something. I got to plant something in there. And there. But I think that's where I'm going to put the tiny wine Ninebark. Just going to plant it in right around the bulbs. If I dig up a bulb, I just throw it in the bottom of the planting area of the hole I dig. But for right now, my tiny wine is going to be tiny because it's a quart-sized pot. So probably for this year, I'm going to have to live with the empty look of those couple spots. Might go to a nursery and see if I can find an echinacea that's in a bigger pot. But then I have to dig a bigger hole and disturb more daffodils. Okay. Panning over to this side, we have our hollyhocks in the back there that I want to try to, they tend to flop this way. So at some point I need to pin them back before they flop over. I have a lily down in there that's trying to make a go of it. That one has been buried by hydrangea for years. And I trimmed this one back. Not crazy about the shape of it. I wish more of it had taken off this way. The part that I trimmed back, right? Not as happy with the shape of that as the rest of them. But it's beautiful and tall. My goodness, it's almost to the top of the garage. That's the strawberry vanilla. Lamium's still going for it. It's, I don't know, at least 1.5 feet out onto the walkway. I like stuff draping over my walkway. It's wide enough you can still walk through. That clematis is probably going to have to be trained back a little bit. I don't know what will happen when it blooms. Will it flop? I don't know. Everything's still doing well over here. Trough still full of water, but we got maybe 1.5 inches this week. My delphinium seeds are popping. We're gonna see how that goes as far as how big they'll get this year. Probably not very big. Columbine still hasn't flowered. Brought my succulents out. I don't know if I had them out last week or not. So all of my houseplants are out now, so I don't have to worry about missing stuff. My coleus is still trying to go to seed on me. So I just pull those seed heads off. Or, I mean, I cut below them so that they'll bush out. Continue to grow. Not try to seed. All right, down the pathway. I cut most of my Sarah Bernhardt peonies off. So the Sarah Bernhardts, we got that little bit of rain and they flopped. So, and dropped their petals. You can see there's quite a few petals there. They do blend pretty nicely with my mulch, but for the most part, I cut them off and threw them all back behind. If you've watched me for very long, you know that's what I do with all my cuttings, is throw them behind where you can't see them. So I still have a couple. There's a few on that one. This Gold Mound Spirea is the current hit with the bees. It's just humming all the time with those flowers. Still wants to continue to grow. I moved all of that stuff out last year. I may just take out that Millennium Allium, excuse me, altogether. I don't know. And just see if it looks too bare there. This Sarah Bernhardt was flopping bad. And when I cut it off, it still looks a little rough. So I'll have to see what I can do about that. Still have the clematis growing up and flowering in the hydrangea. That one is a limelight hydrangea. This is another strawberry vanilla hydrangea, and I love the shape of that one. It's perfect, in my opinion, perfect height, perfect shape. It will also probably droop once it gets the large flowers on it. We're starting to get some buds with the hydrangeas, and this clematis officially made it all the way to the top. Let me see if I can show you of the arborvitae. Literally, it's right there at the very top. Now it just needs to flower. So it can be like a flower at the top of the arborvitae. It's my obelisk, or obelisk. All right, moving along. I cleaned out all of the hardy geranium. They had gone over, so lots of holes in that bed too. They will flush out again, but it feels so much tidier to me. I really need this fall to divide the iris. I have another Stand By Me clematis there that I think doesn't get quite as much sun. I don't know. It needs an obelisk too. The Alchemilla or lady's mantle is still blooming. The salvia is going over. We had a daylily bloom yesterday that's gone. Right now my favorite is this, the delphinium. Such an intense purple. Can't capture it on the camera. So much darker than what shows up on the camera. The lilies still haven't popped yet. I thought by this tour they would have popped, the eyeliner lilies. There's going to be so many blooms there. I have the hardy hibiscus that found its way out from underneath that hosta. I need to move that because it's clearly leaning like this to grow. Still hoping this is helenium, but it just keeps getting taller. The hosta's starting to bloom. Not a huge hosta blooms fan, but the hummingbirds love it. And I love the hummingbirds, and the bees. So I'll let them stay. Remember those two holes? You can see how the evening rose, hardy hibiscus, is filling in those spots. They do get huge. Beautiful flowers. That would have darker foliage if it got more sunshine, but it doesn't. So the Zephyrin rose is still there, actually growing a little bit taller with some new growth. Hard to see because it's against the dark house. There you go. So it is taller than the hosta now. Anyway, it is staying for now. I ended up putting the blue chiffon rose of Sharon over here, right down in there. I'll show you in a minute. I need height over here, height and bushiness. I have a gold arborvitae. It's a tree, but as everybody knows, takes them forever. Takes evergreens. They're very slow growing for the most part. Some are arborvitaes, like that one with the clematis growing up, our North Pole. They grow faster. Considerably faster. That one in the corner of the house is probably only been in there for 3 years. And it is probably 8 feet tall. I don't remember what size it was when I bought it, but it was maybe a 1 gallon. We have the foxgloves still doing their thing. There's the arborvitae. I forget which one it's called. If I remember, I'll put it up on the screen. And then we have the blue chiffon, the new one, down in there. It's got lots of buds on it. That was a 3 gallon plant. It's fairly good size. And yes, I have a Hosta there, which is probably gonna get burned because it's on a this is the corner of the house. There is, so that's the side of the house. That would be east facing wall. This wall would be the south facing wall. So that's gonna get a lot of sun. Mr. Bowling Ball, arborvitae. I like the fluffiness of arborvitaes. That's why I have so many. All right, side yard. Probably should make these tours a little quicker. We have a couple roses there. This is the Alnwick rose. Still not impressed with my planter. It's still struggling. We have our first Echinacea coneflower blooming. A nice intense color. That one might be something berry or powwow. Or maybe powwow berry or the same one. Not quite sure. Still have, excuse me, foxglove. We have a lot more coneflowers or echinacea in there that are getting ready to bloom. The Midnight Masquerade is sending up stalks. It's still not much different than last week. Honeysuckle. So this is one of the pictures of my videos is with this clematis in bloom. I don't remember which clematis it is, but the seed heads on this are so amazing. Look at the seed heads. They're these little gold, and they really are gold. They're shiny. Little, they almost look like a Dr. Seuss hairdo type thing. They are adorable. We still have the Bowl of Beauty, blooming, and iris. It's a little bit late to the game, but that one's going over now. We had a daylily yesterday that bloomed that's about the same color as the Lady of Shalott, which is still going for it. This is such an amazing color. It really kind of shows up more orange on the camera, I think. it just has so many colors to it. It's so beautiful. It's got like pink, yellow, peach, coral. Beautiful. Needs to be deadheaded. And I do tend to deadhead because I enjoy it. It's therapeutic for me, unlike pulling weeds. Here's it yesterday morning happening. I decided to move my rhubarb. It clearly got mad at me. Clearly. We'll see if it bounces back. I have more, so I actually even have one that's still sitting on the walkway over there that I could completely replace it with. But it is sad because it had big, huge, beautiful leaves and it filled in that hole nicely. Still have a ton of strawberries going this year. We just come out and eat and eat and eat. My daughter and I, mostly. My husband has some. There's the Munstead wood still going for it. Love that rose. Great rose year. This is the flopping daffodil mess. I don't remember them flopping so any other year. I don't know what that's about. If I take these out, there's going to be huge holes. So I haven't quite decided what I'm doing with that mess. Onions still haven't flowered. They're still opening up. I'm going to save those seeds for next year. There's a big change this week here, which you probably can't tell. I'll see if I can. I should have taken a before and after. This is where I had iris growing up. So initially I was going to move the bush, which is a berry gold bush. But then I decided that that was so huge, it would be easier to move the iris. So I moved the iris over there. It got a little bit tattered because it was not easy to dig out in between those two shrubs. Another gold mound spirea. This is my globe blue spruce that's been in that container for a couple of years. Yesterday I popped it out, put some fresh dirt in the bottom, and popped it back in. So now it's propped up a little bit. There was a couple of inches of settling in there. White foxglove still going for it. My lamb's ear that planted itself over there is starting to bloom. Not my favorite lamb's ear, but I like the Helen von Stein better. But it adds a color and a texture. It's kind of hidden behind there. Another echinacea that this one needs to be moved, and I considered moving it over in one of my holes in the front yard because it's too close. It's gotten large. These are the tiny ones I planted last summer that I was having trouble getting echinaceas to come back. All mine came back this year, but I'm also wondering if I didn't pull them up thinking they were weeds in the spring. They do have a bit of a thistle-looking leaf on them. But yeah, it's too close to this bird's nest evergreen. So I might still move that one to the front bed. That is hardy hibiscus that's got the darker foliage. Millennium alliums still haven't bloomed yet. Probably by next walkthrough next Sunday. The peach fudge are blooming. Check these lilies out. They're almost like a rose before it opens kind of shape. So unique. So pretty. Got those from my brother. Container there that my containers this year look horrible. Not happy with my containers. The scabiosa pincushion still has some blooms. I trimmed my Monarda back. We'll see if it puts out another flush. Another green eyes Rudbeckia starting to flower. Some more white foxglove. Snapdragons that come back for me every year. And still not much of a progression on the sage flowering. So not sure this year if we're going to get that many blooms. I did an extremely hard rejuvenation prune on those, so. Man, look at the snails. We have so many snails this year, especially considering it's not that wet. Okay, I have some dahlias in containers with some petunias that I planted from seed. The dahlias are taking over that container. All right, I need to do something with my clematis there, or it's gonna, I guess it could take off into that tree, but into the birch tree. It's pretty tall here. I don't know how to get it's a good 2 feet above that post. I usually try to wrap it around and wind them around together. All right, that's it for this Sunday's walkthrough. Hope you all have a great week. We'll see you next week. Bye.